World War I, Section 4 with Ms. Lashi. United States neutrality. The official stance of the United States was that we were neutral in the European conflict known as the Great War, or World War I. Despite this official stance, the U.S. government sold war materials and food to the Allies. Both military and passenger liners were used to send these goods across the Atlantic Ocean. Industrialization and agriculture grew at a rapid pace in the United States as more and more goods were shipped to Europe to the Allies. A stance is basically a position. This is how I believe. That is my stance. This is what I'm going to do. It's my stance. I also want to point out that despite the fact that we are officially neutral, we're sending food and supplies to the Allies, so that's really not being neutral, even though we're officially claiming to be neutral. Unrestricted submarine warfare. Germany began a policy called unrestricted submarine warfare in response to the United States shipping goods and Great Britain blocking their ports. Under this policy, they would sink any ship off the waters of Great Britain, regardless if they were civilian or military ships. And this caused a lot of outrage when civilian ships were getting sunk and civilians were dying. That didn't have anything to do with the war. The Sussex Pledge. The U.S. government put pressure on Germany to stop unrestricted submarine warfare. American lives and property were at risk under unrestricted submarine warfare. In 1915, Germany agreed to stop the policy of sinking any ship and signed the Sussex Pledge. Under the Sussex Pledge, Germany would fire a warning shot before sinking a ship so people could get into lifeboats. The Lusitania. Even though Germany had agreed to the Sussex Pledge, a German U-boat or submarine sunk a British passenger ship called the Lusitania. There were 128 Americans on board. American newspapers began to circulate the story of the sinking of the Lusitania, and Americans were outraged. The Zimmermann Telegram. A telegram sent to the German foreign ambassador in Mexico was intercepted. The Zimmermann Telegram or telegraph promised Mexico lands lost to the United States if they promised to side with Germany if the U.S. joined the war. American newspapers picked up on this story and it began to be circulated. Americans were outraged at the Zimmermann Telegram. America enters World War I. Strong economic, political, and social ties to the Allies, the sinking of the Lusitania, and the Zimmermann Telegram all contributed to the U.S. joining World War I on the side of the Allies in 1917. I also want to point out that the Zimmermann Telegram is sometimes called the Zimmermann Note, or the Zimmermann Telegraph. The Espionage Act of 1917. In 1917, the U.S. Congress passed a law called the Espionage Act. Under this act, it became illegal to mail or print anything that would hinder the military's war efforts. So a lot of critics said that this was actually suppressing the freedom of speech under the First Amendment and was unconstitutional. The Sedition Act of 1918. In 1918, the U.S. Congress passed a law called the Sedition Act. Under this new law, it became illegal to speak out against America's involvement in World War I, or WW1. Again, a lot of people claim that this was a violation of the First Amendment right to the U.S. Constitution. Freedom of speech violated. Many critics of the Espionage Act of 1917 and the Sedition Act of 1918 argued that it violated American citizens' constitutional rights to freedom of speech and the press. They said that the United States government did not have a right to void the U.S. Constitution.